I would be interested in the perspective of you both on the term suffering, in that sense of a question, what makes people plunging into that river?
Do you feel like giving a shot?
The perspective of the inner teachings on suffering, is that what you're asking? You know, just in advance, I wanted to say that I'm also a Western teacher. I use Western terms, although I also come from the Advaita teachings. But you know, when I came back to Europe, I started to engage more and more in the Western aspects of the one teaching. It's only one teaching anyway, you know. So, when you ask me about suffering, I would say that the basic of suffering is an unconscious hell. So, the unconscious hell, through whatever method or non-method, is to be transformed into conscious hell. So I even use the term of the one moment of conscious crucifixion. You know, when people ask me what's the difference between your teaching and the teaching of the Catholic Church, I say the Catholic Church teaches crucifixion all life. I teach the crucifixion of the one moment. So this moment of complete consciousness is already the beginning of the end of suffering, because suffering implies suffering cannot survive in complete and total consciousness. It always implies a lack of consciousness. And as you know from your inner practice, I guess, is that it seems that there are different layers of narcotization, tamas, rajas, sattva, which have to be penetrated or evolved so that this complete and total consciousness, which is the natural state of being, is present. And suffering can definitely not survive in consciousness. It requires veiled consciousness, darkened consciousness. Gangaji gave a very simple definition. I mean, it's a little simple, but it's really to the point when you understand it on a broad level. She said, suffering is the relationship with pain. It's not pain, it's the relationship with pain. So we can understand pain on many different levels, on all the levels of the human being. So if there is nobody who has relationship with pain, there is definitely no suffering. This is what I have to say at the moment.
concur.
Good. Good.
Anything else to add to that? We could see it this way also. That there is suffering, but there is no sufferer. And this is the crux of understanding. There is suffering, but in the proper analysis, there was never anyone found who is the sufferer. And that what makes a big difference. This, of course, cannot be said to any audience, because the jumping into conclusions would be result. And there are different takes on specifically on that. What is then suffering in terms of human dimension, in terms of the dimension of what we understand by human consciousness? These are categories in the language, of course, and we're always running a risk that we need to make a concession so that there is an understanding to invite someone first before there is a possibility to deliver that what will leave someone in suspense. So the understanding here is that this relational aspect of which Om was just speaking about always in connection with the neurophysiological activity of any kind. It is in the connection, with the connection to the body. Physical, often people ask what it is like for someone who breaks free. Does the suffering end? Suffering is a psychological condition. And all psychological conditions, without exception, are self-imposed. I'm not going to go into the specifics of the language here. I'm I welcome myself this possibility of speaking this in pure Western terms. These psychological conditionings are impositions which altogether creates that alliance, that coagulated structure of what we consider ourselves to be on that level. And suffering is an indispensable, inseparable part as a response to that psychological discomfort. So suffering then also helpfully separated on two kinds. Suffering in relation to pain, pain which is unavoidable and inevitable as long as there is physiology. As long as there is physiology, there will be pain. And there are many dimensions to pain. Our culture at the present moment, at the current present moment, making every attempt to find a solution so that we experience less and less and less pain. It is an interesting phenomenon. The more we are in pursuit of relieving ourselves from the acuity of what often means being alive in the physical body, the more there is of that psychological pain born of discontent. So the one who breaks free, to whatever degree that breakthrough is relieved from suffering because there is no sufferer left to suffer. This very, very stuff is dissolved, or whatever other analogy we may use. It no longer leaves an impression because it fails to. But physical pain, it's something unavoidable, and every being knows that. It's a common ground. It's what also softens us in many, many ways. The great physical pain makes us softer. That another term for compassion. Doesn't make us into softies, but it makes us softer at the heart level, because that kind of suffering, that kind of physical pain, endurance to that, does something which perhaps we still do not understand as a culture. Maybe it left us at some point. Maybe we are afraid to even look into that, because pain can be a great initiation. I speak now from direct experience. Acute physical pain can be a great initiation, but we don't want psychological pain, because that is a self-inflicted pain. In a way, it's from the domain of masochism. And something for you to maybe ponder about. That how we create relationship with suffering, because that relationship also reinforces that identity. And the pact is being made. So freeing ourselves from the impositions which are behind this very suffering means saying goodbye to also the notion about ourselves we have. And that's a deeply, deeply threatening affair. So we sometimes prefer to back off and continue suffering.
Let me just add something, because I think you mentioned a very important point. You know, you were talking about the initiative moment of pain. You know, so when I've gone through a lot of pain because I had a very severe car accident. So I had a lot of physical pain for many, many years. And see, the childish mind is dedicated to lust and to a comfortable life. The childish mind is always hedonistic, hedonistically oriented. But the shadow of this attitude is a hidden worshipping of pain. So, simply said, the more we want to get rid of pain, and this is also what I understood you saying, no matter on what level, the more the mind wants to get rid of pain, the more pain we induce in the subconscious mind. So, working with people and their relationship with pain, I came to the conclusion, I realized over many years that people have a mystified relationship with pain. So there's a kind of mystification of pain, a hidden worshipping of pain, what you call masochistic, which is exactly the opposite of the obvious hedonistic attitude, wanting to, lead a comfortable life. So, going through all this pain, physically, basically, there was a very clear understanding of the teaching, I mean the inner teaching of pain. I mean pain as revealing as the true heart teacher. And the teaching of pain is definitely humbleness. So pain has these two aspects. It's humbling the mind, the identity of this person. And it is also a strong funnel. You understand funnel? Yes. There is a transformative moment of love in pain. So really the deep surrendering to this pain in not knowing, or throwing away every concept about pain that you have had before. There is a deep transformational aspect, and pain will always transform into love, finally. And it gives some substance to the soul. I mean, a person who has consciously gone, this is also part of the conscious hell, gone through this pain without worshipping it in a false way, will then finally have a deeper maturity of soul.